Once again, Mr. Gifford is joining us from outer space. I don't know how
Yes, he is. Oops, we just lost him.
This last.
Oh, that's terrible. And Bruce is fishing.
And Bruce is fishing. Yeah.
Yes. I have not heard
no,
from.
not fishing.
Oh, there he is. Oh, he is fishing. Look, he's outdoors.
No, he wants to give us ample evidence that no, I'm working my butt off here.
I have not heard anything from Carol or Amy, so I don't know if they're going to be with us or not.
Susan, I'm going to give you a tip, especially for Carol. Text her the day we're having it and remind her.
Okay.
And then Amy, you can email and like, can you make it? Because her job is crazy. So if she can, she can. If she can't, she can. But Carol is just a matter of a little bit of jingle probably in her memory.
Okay, that's a good thing to remember. I don't know, but she's talked. No, your mic isn't working.
Not working, man.
No, not working. That's really bad. Happens. Yes, now.
Hi, I'm dealing with network issues. I got DNS entries that aren't being published across the world, so mail flow isn't happening again like on Friday, and my phone might ring at any minute again like it just did. I've been trying to reach out with the company, but I'm here for the moment.
Well, it was interesting because when I tried to log on, I got a message saying that I couldn't, but then I tried again from my iPad and I got in, Bruce.
So there's a company called register.com, and we tell them all of our addresses, and then they publish those addresses across the entire internet for us so that people can click on things and find us. On Friday, they had a major outage and all of our addresses got erased from the internet. On Monday, they're doing it again.
Oh, crap. Well, thank you. I hope it doesn't, I hope it works out the best for you. I would like to call the meeting to order. And first on technology, Bruce, you're going to talk to us about hotspots.
So we are still sending out hotspots, and our requests had gotten to the point that we were getting some students requesting hotspots, and we adapted a new procedure where we required parents to call us so that we were not sending internet into a household without the parents of that household being aware that that internet was being delivered.
Yeah.
And since then, we've been getting a lot more requests too for people who just want to use us as a way to save money. So we've established some criteria now that in order to be eligible for a hotspot, it must be that you do not have access to internet on your road, or that you are in an economic status that qualifies you for free and reduced lunch. And then we provide it as well. On Friday, I had a Zoom session with T-Mobile. They're running specials right now where they're trying to provide free hotspots for schools as well. And they're saying that they've updated their coverage in our area. Tomorrow, I hope to receive a demo device from them so I can drive around and confirm that the signal strength is valid, and I'll be seeking more hotspots through their program as well, because the existing hotspots only came with 6 months of service from the state.
Okay.
Currently, Verizon and the state are working on a new contract to possibly renew that. My Verizon guy tells me that the state is likely not to send out any more hotspots, but is likely to maybe add another 6 months to the existing hotspots that we have.
Okay.
So with that, we're trying to keep all of our students online. Our remote learners and our hybrid learners are our off-site learners. We've got so many terminology.
I know.
Our off-site learners and our hybrid learners are our priority there. And we're hoping that we just get better with more hotspots because it is becoming a tiger's tail to wrangle.
I'm sure. How many hotspots do you think T-Mobile might let us use?
You know, I'm not sure. The gentleman was more of a salesman up front, and so he was trying to really pitch sales more so than anything, but he did say that he would include information on the program that they're running right now. You might see the commercials on TV that they're giving away free hotspots to schools. So I don't have an answer to that question yet, but I hope to soon.
Oh, I'm sure you'll probably hear from them
Bruce,
quickly.
Bruce, what towers is T-Mobile using?
So T-Mobile is a GSM network. Verizon and US Cellular are CDMA networks. So they may vary by tower, but also know that towers themselves are not owned by any carriers.
Right.
Towers are owned by individual companies that rent space to carriers.
Okay.
So it's more about where they have their contracts to put their antenna up on someone else's tower.
Okay.
So even though there are towers all around, it's all about whether that service provider chooses to have a contract with that person to rent space on the tower.
Okay. Thank you.
But technically in our area, for historical purposes, T-Mobile is using the old Unicell towers. When Unicell sold to Verizon, Verizon rented space on the towers for 3 years for some contractual purpose. And when that was done, they finally sold the towers out to T-Mobile and Sprint, and T-Mobile bought up Sprint. So the old Unicell towers might be the best reference that you'd have in this area.
Gotcha. All right. Thank you.
I used T-Mobile for years as a cell. I switched to Verizon about 3 years ago. I actually had pretty good luck up here with T-Mobile. Much better than I anticipated.
Well, they had also stated that they're ready for 5G in our area.
Yes.
Which is going to be the new high speed. And I certainly inquired that I hadn't seen any new towers going up, because one of the downsides of 5G is that the towers don't have the same range as existing 4G towers do for any cell carrier. And the T-Mobile salesman assured me that the frequency of which T-Mobile transmits on their towers is the lowest possible frequency, which means the smaller the frequency, the smaller the sine wave, the longer the range of it. So competitively, their towers should have more range than the others. Again, that was a sales call.
Okay.
Thank you. Google Classroom.
So Google Classroom, Dojo, and Seesaw are all programs that we've started up this year. We've more embraced them this year. We did not start them this year.
Okay.
At the beginning of the reopening plan, we asked teachers K through 5 to use Classroom, Dojo, and Seesaw as their online methods of communicating with households and students about what's going on in their classroom and or the curriculum of their classroom. Grades 6 through 12 are using Google Classroom, just in an effort to standardize our process for the ease of use for parents, so that when they're trying to help their student or look something up about their student, and if they have multiple students in their household that may go to different schools and things like that, we wanted to make sure that we help them with making it as easy as possible and as standardized as possible. So currently the Dojo and Seesaw are really rolling along pretty fast. The elementary teachers had already been using that in some spots, and so they've taken to it fairly well. Google Classroom is is moving along at the middle school and the high school. Again, we had pockets of that had heavy use in the past, but now every teacher is having that presence online so that students and parents can participate in the classroom structure through that online method.
Fantastic. Our visiting principals, do you have any comments?
I invited them more for the hybrid conversation, so I don't. I think they're probably pretty used to their teachers using Google Classroom to deliver assignments and lessons for students. Although, you know, that's probably going to be part of the hybrid conversation as well, is how that's going and what else we can continue to improve.
Okay, okay. Does anyone have any questions for Bruce? Thank you, Bruce, for all your
Certainly,
work.
thank you.
Oh, no, you're doing a terrific job. And it's so much fun, isn't it, IT?
Well, it absolutely is very fun, and it's getting more and more fun the more we embrace it. The level of activity in the district is rapidly increasing.
Great, thank you.
So that'll be one of the benefits of COVID, our COVID year, is that technology even more embraced than before.
It's hard for me to talk about it because it almost sounds like thankful for a pandemic. So I try not to say anything.
There's silver linings to everything in life. So it just, we're all over the place. Yeah.
It works. Thank you, Bruce. John, do you have any comments?
Yeah, the whole conversation with hotspots, I think hotspots are going to be something that will be in more demand. So I think it's good to get a handle on those right off. Hopefully we can work out something with T-Mobile to get some more of those. I think they're going to be in demand at some point. And yeah, I will tell you that Bruce has been doing a really good job with some challenging situations with IT.
Yes.
I've been in many discussions with him about what's happening. It hasn't been a lot of fun. The email server has been a bit of a challenge and some other things going on. So just acknowledging that.
Thank you. If there are no other comments, then Stephanie,
Okay.
congratulations again.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Well, you wanted an update on offsite, so I'll start with that piece, and then
Okay.
I just wanted to update you on the progress of all of the students who have a little bit of a different approach to learning this year, which really probably would be all of our students, but I wanted to include the middle and high school as well to talk about hybrid.
Okay.
Our offsite learning number is shrinking a little bit. We've had some additional drops since the last time that we talked, and I can give you the most recent numbers here. Let me just pull them up. It says it's reloading my web page, so you might have to give me a minute on that.
Okay.
Oh, nope, here it is. I got it. So we started off with 198. The number grew a little bit from there as we were adding students into Edmentum. Our add period was the week prior to school starting until 2 weeks after school started. I think Friday, September 18th was the last day that we were adding students into Edmentum. So we've had, since that time, actually really since our initial upload, we've had a total of 31 adds and 71 drops. The last time that I talked to you, I think it was 51. So we've really only had 20 drops since last month when I gave a similar report. They've trickled in slowly. I try to talk to the parents as often as I can because I ask that they notify me prior to getting a hold of their school. Although that doesn't always happen super smoothly because they prefer to reach out to their school first. But most schools will say, oh, please call Stephanie before making the switch. And part of why I want to do that is because I want to find out from the family why they're making the change. Most often the change is because they want to come back in person. Many of them, especially the younger students, have wanted that social interaction with their peers. The last family that I talked to, actually, I talked to one today who has 2 children that are coming back, and one on Friday that has 2 children that are coming back. And in both cases, they mentioned the relationships. And surprisingly, it wasn't with the peers, it's the relationships with the teachers. The
Yeah.
students are really missing that personalized connection with teachers. And although Edmentum does offer a teacher of record, it's not the same. It's definitely more challenging. And another parent that I talked to today of a student, and this student is not dropping, but I was problem solving with the parent because it's hard. The Edmentum piece is challenging. And I think a lot of our families feel that way, because it's in a regular classroom, the teacher's doing a lot of work. The teacher is
Right.
explaining the information, oftentimes explaining it lots of different ways for varied learning abilities, breaking it down for the students, clarifying information. And when you don't have the teacher there in the home to do all of those pieces, it's either on the parent to do, which is challenging, or it's up to the student. And for many of our middle school and high school students who are working through this independently, that's really tough because they're not used to learning that way. They're used to having the teacher being able to break that information down. We've certainly had students that have been successful, and continue to be successful with Edmentum, but I'm sure most of our students who are working through it would say, even though they're successful, it's pretty tough. Because they're sort of taking on the role of the student and what the teacher would be providing to that student. Even though the curriculum's there, again, they're the ones who are reading the instructions and interpreting the instructions and trying to clarify and discern exactly what it is that the teacher is providing for instruction and looking for in assignments. So I wanted to show you a little bit what Edmentum looks like for
Yeah.
the K-5 side and the 6-12 side. I know that that was something that you had asked. And now that we've had students that are all of our licenses are now active. Our grace period is over. So I took a few students who had withdrawn and just made them sort of general accounts so that I can go into to an account and show you what it looks like. So I'm going to share my screen. And this is a sample of Calvert, which is the K-5 curriculum. This is a first grade curriculum. And the first thing that they were offered in the first 2 weeks of school was called Exact Path Math and Exact Path Reading. I'm just going to pull this open just to show you what it looks like. Students still have access to these 2 things, and they're meant as skill building. The superintendent of the whole Edmentum courseware recommends that students do about 15 minutes of exact path math and exact path reading each day just to continue to build those skills, but it's not a main component of the curriculum. They started exact path math and exact path reading by doing a diagnostic assessment, which leveled them. It's very similar to when we do the NUIA assessment. The expectation is that as students are leveling, they're getting about 50% of the questions right and 50% of the questions wrong in order to gauge their actual learning level. So they did that in exact path math and exact path reading, and they end up with something called their learning path, which when they log into their learning path, it looks like this. They can either click into math, or they can click into reading from here so they don't have to go back to their dashboard to get into reading. It's very colorful, it's bright, engaging, fun. I'm going to click into one of the math ones and just show you a sample of what the lesson looks like. Again, this is first grade.
Wow.
So they are analyzing equations to see if they are correct. Might have clicked on the wrong thing there. Oh, I gotta click the.
Which is the correct equation?
So it's asking which is the correct equation. Students would be on their iPads as they're doing it, so they're just touching the correct equation. It's reading the question out loud for them. Sometimes there's a little story that goes along with it, especially in the reading ones, and it will read that out loud for the students. So they're looking at the equations and they're determining which one's the correct one.
Brilliant.
They get it correct, they get immediate feedback.
Stephanie,
If they get it incorrect,
Use these pictures to help you. Which picture shows the sheep added correctly?
it gives them prompts to help support them in getting their next answer.
Stephanie,
Yeah,
is this web-based or device-based?
it's web-based.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Some families struggled at first with some of the content not loading, and we found that this Edmentum, this is an Edmentum product. It's Exact Paths. It's not a Calvert product. It seems to load much better in Chrome. We were having a lot of trouble with it loading in Safari, but it is all web-based. Ideally, you'd be able to access either of those browsers, but it was not working well with Safari at first.
Okay.
So students will do, usually they'll do a practice, a quiz, and then they'll do, a lesson, a practice, and then some sort of a quiz. And they'll continue through that succession, and they'll keep working through their learning path as they continue to add to their skills. And so again, this is a really good way to build some of those key foundational skills that we might be filling in some of the gaps from. And it's a really engaging way for them to do that.
I assume it doesn't let you go forward until you get what you're supposed to get first, like proficiencies.
So, right, if a student doesn't, if they continue to get them wrong, they'll keep getting the same types of problems with the prompts to show them the correct way to do it until they get it right.
Yeah. It's not a repeat of the same problem though. They're different problems.
Right, they would continue to get different problems.
Yeah.
So I'm going to X out of this because the other thing I want to show you about K5 is the Calvert courseware. So you'll see this student has ELA, health, math, social studies, science, and physical education. So all of our K5 students, unless they have an IEP where they receive specialized instruction in math or English language arts, they have 6 Calvert courses that they're working through.
Wow.
If I launch this, it takes me into the Calvert platform, which is also web-based. So they're entering this. I recommend through Chrome. It gives students a suggested daily schedule. This student, as a first grader, would probably need some support from a parent to sit with them and work to suggest where they should be and make sure that they're on pace. So the parent might say, okay, today you're on day 12. We're going to be working on English language arts. They should try to stay as caught up as possible and on pace with each of the days. It always gives a suggestion in all of the subject areas. So here, for example, English language arts hasn't been done, so that's up next. And then ideally they would be doing, they've got a mental health piece here for their health class. They've got compare and order numbers to 20, part 1 in math, but you can see that this sample one has completed some and not others and really worked a long ways in math. And sometimes that happens. They get, a student will get sort of their favorite thing to work on and they'll work along in one subject area and then you kind of become off kilter a little bit. This is set up so that students can do that. That's not normally what I recommend to families though. I recommend that they try to stick to the pacing of the day. Just so that they don't get behind in any one particular area. But let me click into one of these and I'll show you what it looks like. So this would be English language arts. And this is the piece that I mean about it being a lot for students and families. Certainly a first grader is not going to sit down and read all of this information. They
Right.
really need to have support at home in order to have a parent help them work through this. So it gives what they're learning here. You've already found words that describe story parts and have written about a character. Now you'll describe a story setting and write about setting. It links them into a story here. A lot of these stories will open up from a popular company like Houghton Mifflin. I think Stella Luna takes them to a Pearson courseware piece, which is, well, it's now Savas, it's not Pearson anymore, but it takes them into Realize Reader, and it will open up the book so that they can read through the book. It gives them a assignment here to do. Sensory words are words that tell about how something looks, tastes, smells, sounds, or feels. Authors use these words to tell about the setting. Next, to complete this T-chart to show what sensory words the author of Stella Luna uses to tell about the setting. And these are all live links. So on the iPad, students can click on these things, they can pull them up, they can, if it doesn't allow them to write directly on it, let me just open this one and see where it takes me. So this takes me to a PDF. You can't write directly on a PDF, but on the iPad, they can take a screenshot of this and then they can use their markup tool to edit directly on the T-chart. This is practice for them, so they don't have to submit any of the work that's in PDFs or practice. That was sort of a commonly asked question, especially for math, when they're practicing lots of math problems and the parents would say, well, I don't have a printer, so how am I going to print out all of these worksheets? And so I Zoomed with quite a few families, and that's my suggestion. I actually, when I Zoom with them, I have usually my iPad that's out as well. And then I'll show them, like I'll literally pull my screen up and I'll say, okay, you see this button right here, your home button, and you see your where is it on here? Power button. Oh, here it is on the top. So I'll show them how to use the power button and the home button in order to take a screenshot. And then I'll show them how to navigate to the markup tool so that they don't have to print anything out. It really can all be done digitally.
Wow.
Yeah, it's neat, but it is a lot of work. You know, especially for our families that might not have the time to sit directly one-on-one with these kids. So it is a challenge. The curriculum, families, if they do have a printer, and certainly it's not required to print it, but
I make the assumption that for parents who chose to go this route with their first grader, they knew they would have time to put into it. Is that an apt assumption or partially apt? What do you think?
Well, I don't think parents knew exactly what they were choosing when they chose this option, because I mean, again, in the time frame that I shared with the board, it was a really tight time frame. And although we shared what this is, and I even told parents on the phone when they were like, yeah, I think I want to sign up for it. I'm like, are you sure this is what it's going to be? And, you know, I had some families that were like, yeah, oh, absolutely, this is what we want. Some of those very same families called me a week or two later and said, gosh, I don't think I can do this. And it's hard. I think until you're doing it, it's hard. I feel for these families, and I tell them every time I talk to them, I'm like, you know, this is a challenge, and we recognize that it's a challenge. I think it's the best that we could offer, given the resources, given the time frame.
Yeah.
And it is a very good curriculum, but it's really hard too. I mean, I think it's hard to manage this at home for families. I think it's challenging to do it all digitally. Our students aren't used to doing this. Most students aren't. So yeah, I think there are families too that have multiple children that are either learning online or they have very young kids, and it's a lot to juggle.
Yeah, wow.
It is a lot. It's like the parents and the children are learning at the same time.
It's true. Yeah.
Yeah.
And our families have done a great job. They've asked great questions. I think our learning liaisons have done a wonderful job, but it's not ideal.
Yeah.
I assume, by the way, that this is going to do a lot for the respect of the teaching career.
Oh,
Like, wow.
I would think so.
Yes.
Absolutely. Yeah, I don't think there's anything that can take the place of in person with a teacher. I really don't.
No,
No.
nothing. No.
Well, let me take just a moment and I'll show you what this looks like for older students. And I'm going to stop sharing my screen just for a minute, just so I don't get any actual student data up here, but I'm going to log out. And then I'm going to log back in and I can share my screen now. So this is what Edmentum courseware looks like. So this is called the Genius platform. So it looks all the same. If I'm a parent of a student in elementary school that's using Calvert courseware and I have a middle school kid, my platform is going to look just like this. And I'm going to be able to go up here and toggle between my two students. So they've sort of consolidated everything into one platform to make it much easier on families. Families were a little upset about that at the beginning of the year because they were wondering, why would we go with a product that was going to change their platform on us? And we actually didn't know at the time. When this was initially sold to us, we were told that parents would have to have 2 logins, one into Calvert and one into Edmentum if they had students in different grade levels. And that was one of the downsides to me because I thought that's going to be challenging for families to juggle. So I'm glad that they made this switch, but the timing of their switch was the same timing as the start of our school year. So that wasn't ideal. I don't think there was anything we could have done about that, but it did make for a little bit of a rockier start. And I think I'd mentioned before, in hindsight, if we could have delayed it for a week, I definitely would have. And that week would have given Edmentum an opportunity to work out some of the kinks of getting their platform up and running. But this is what the platform looks like. And then just like I showed you for the K-5 student, all a student has to do once they're in here is launch, and it's going to take them to a similar setup where they're going to see a schedule and all of their classes. They can also use this dashboard to contact any of their teachers. So this student can see all of their teachers' names, phone numbers. They can text the teachers in some cases, email addresses, and then they can email the teachers directly from the platform. So let me go into a course. So it doesn't matter which one I open up. I can launch any of them. It takes me to the same place. And what you're going to see is the same as what a student in grade 6 through 12 would see. The only difference is they're going to see different courses, and it's whichever ones they've been signed up for. So first, down the side, they're going to see any alerts. The teachers have live instructional lessons that they provide. Sometimes they're weekly, sometimes they're twice a week. They have a schedule. Our learning liaisons have shared, there's a big matrix that the company put together that's in a big Google spreadsheet. And they can look through and they can see which live lessons they want to jump into. The live lessons are not always by the teacher that the student has. They're still around the same curriculum, but they might be hearing that lesson from a different teacher of the same curriculum. This particular teacher that we see alerts here down the side has offered things like Kahoot. Kahoot is it's like a gamified quiz for students where they can be asked questions about the content, and then the students can log in and they can choose which answer they think best fits. So that's a really interactive way to work through content together. So this teacher has a Kahoot game that they've set up and has also posted some of the Zoom links directly here so that students can access those really easily. Students do not have to do the Zoom live lessons or the Zoom help lessons, but the families that I have talked to have said those have been a huge game changer for them. So we do share that information with families and try to encourage them to use those live lessons, especially if they feel like, you know, it's challenging to work through the content all by themselves. I'm going to go into a course. It shows students here if they're off pace. It shows students what their grades are. It shows students what needs to be completed. So this English class has 31 assignments. And so far, If I'm the student, I've only done 2 of the 31 assignments. So, you know, I would know, okay, I need to get working on that course. If I click in here, this will take me directly to the platform for just my English class. And it gives me a little grid here at the top of what all of these colors mean. So anything that's green has already been completed. So I've done my discussion board, I've read my syllabus, I've done my student orientation, I've started my experiencing change in life and literature assignment, but I haven't mastered it yet. I've started, but I haven't finished, so it's in progress. Defining characters in fiction, exploring setting in fiction, and building plot in fiction. But I haven't yet started anything else in this list. And it gives students, just to try to keep them on pace, it gives them a suggested due date here. When they finish something, some of the assignments are auto-scored, especially if it's like a multiple choice type of an assessment, it gets auto-scored. If it's a discussion question, essay, or anything that requires a human reader, it goes directly to their teacher of record, and their teacher of record gives them feedback on it. I'll just pull up a sample of what an assignment looks like. So this one, identifying the writing process, has 2 parts to it. It's identifying the writing process tutorial, and then there is a mastery test. So when I click play, so this one is a slideshow. Sometimes there's videos. Sometimes there's videos embedded into the slideshow, like what you just saw. I can toggle across the top here, and I can continue through the slideshow. This gives me the objective of the lesson, how to access the tutorial. So right now I'm in the introduction of the tutorial. This next part looks like another video. So usually what students will get in their, when they click on that play button, is it might bring them to a discussion question. It might bring them to a slideshow that they need to click through, like this tutorial. It might take them to some videos. It might take them to, similar to what we saw in the first grade, where it's got some writing and an assignment and different links that you either need to find information from resources or an activity that you click on that you're working through. So it is intended to be multimodal. So it's not just, you're not only reading through the assignments, but we definitely get parents that have said this is a lot more reading and having to absorb what the student needs to do than what they're used to. And I would agree with that. Certainly not everything is a slideshow and a video that they're watching.
Yeah, wow.
So that's it in a nutshell, unless there's anything else that you want me to click on so that you can take a look.
So again, Stephanie, the company and the product is Edmentum, but at least with the younger kids or both, they're different products within the Edmentum platform.
That's right. Yep. So they're called Edmentum as an entire company. And what we purchase for grades 6 through 12 is Edmentum courseware. Grades K through 5, they gave us Exact Path Math and Exact Path Reading. You can purchase sort of the next level of those materials, but we did not purchase Exact Path. That was sort of an add-on that they provided to us. And that's an Edmentum product. And then Calvert Learning is sort of its own standalone that they've partnered with. It never used to be digital. It actually used to be a homeschool specific curriculum.
Right.
And it's been the whole entire library of Calvert has been digitized so that you can work through it through this platform. Now, and that wasn't done specifically for the pandemic. That was done as part of what this company offers, because our actual purchase was for licensing under what they call Ed Options Academy. Ed Options Academy is where you're purchasing the teacher of record as well. And that's what we had to do. There are some schools like South Portland and Lewiston, I believe, that purchase the courseware itself, but have their teachers who are remotely delivering some of this curriculum. I talked with South Portland, their curriculum director on Friday. She said that's actually been much more of a challenge because their teachers aren't familiar with the curriculum. So now they have students, families that this is new to, and the teacher. So I'm glad that we went the route that we went, although it hasn't been easy. And I think if we were to ask families right now, you know, is this what you expected? They would say, no, we really expected that we were going to have teachers from the school delivering this. But as I shared with you guys earlier, we didn't have the resources at that time to be able to offer that. And especially in high school, that's where it became the most complicated, the quickest, because we didn't have highly qualified teachers in every single subject area able to deliver freshman English and 12th grade English and you know, things that students need in order to graduate, the help class, you know, some students in Edmentum are taking anthropology and women's studies, and you know, we were able to offer a lot more by going this route than what we would have had to do if we were even able to do it in person, which able to use our personnel in order to deliver it. I don't think that would have been a reality, certainly not within 2 weeks of planning.
It certainly looks complicated. I'm glad I'm not having to do it, but
Yeah.
it's amazing what's available. And it's got to be a long-term learning process for parents, teachers, and the students. I mean, it's just, wow. Particularly for people who don't do a lot of things on the internet.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great though, Stephanie. It's great to see that, because then you have a better idea of what they're talking about and looking at, which I think is critical.
Yeah.
And I thank you very, very much.
Yeah, I agree. Thank you very much. And this is exactly the kind of thing you can do with a board like at our next workshop. Just lead them through.
Yeah.
Exactly. You don't need to do a presentation. No pressure. Just lead them through. So you have an idea, like Susan and I now have an idea.
Yeah.
It's just an idea.
Because I think a lot of them don't think it's nearly as complicated as it is, even though there are a lot of us who use computers for everything. That's a lot. I mean, it really is.
It's the adage of you don't know what you don't know.
Exactly. Exactly. Thank you, Stephanie.
Mm-hmm.
Hybrid learning at the high school and the middle school.
Do you want me to set you guys up? Do you want me to start?
Go for it.
Well, I think probably a challenge similar to offsite learning is the method for delivering instruction for our students who are virtual. So Bruce said at the beginning, you know, we've got all these different things that we're calling students who are not with us when we're in person. So, you know, certainly we have our in-person, that's what we're always used to. We have our off-site students, they're the ones that are using Edmentum. If we go full remote, that would mean the district would be red, or, you know, for whatever reason, everybody would transition into full remote virtual learning. But what's brand new this year is this hybrid learning, which is we've got kids in person some of the days, and then at the same time, we have about half of the student body who's out and they're virtually learning. So we call them virtual learners. And certainly, like Bruce also said, we're using Google Classroom to deliver some of that instruction. Teachers have been creative, and we have Jesse and Bill here just to talk a little bit about what virtual learning looks like at each of their schools in terms of their hybrid model.
So
you want me to go first?
Was that Bill? Want me to
Age,
go first?
age before beauty.
Where then?
So to talk about the middle school a little bit, you know, we started the year in this hybrid model. We alternate days, so we have a blue and a white cohort. We divided the district, well, we divided our school in relatively half, although it's not quite half. So on blue days, we get a group of students coming in, grades 6 through 8. On white days, we get another group of students coming in 6 through 8. And on the days they're not in school, through Google Classroom and Zoom and other avenues, students are expected to work on materials. This is of course much different than last spring when we shut down, when basically the nation shut down. But when we shut down and parents and students were home, one of the things that helped support students were having parents in the household to help them with work. The difference for us this fall has been that we have parents who are working, thankfully, for everyone. But sometimes students are working on their own, and that is a specific challenge, especially for our younger students in grade 6, which I don't know if you're privy to this, but one of the things that the superintendent had asked us to do at the prior to the start of the year is to conduct these reviews of looking at where we are, what we need to do differently, what can we do to help support families and students moving forward. So that being said, thank goodness for Google Classroom, because I think that's been a big help. Recently, one of the things we found when we were looking at attendance, we found that we needed a better way to count attendance, and it's been a kind of an interesting experiment. So we sent out a Google, not an app, I've been told not to call this an app, but basically students check in, which for attendance purposes before 8 o'clock in the morning, and that counts them as being in school for the day, much like homeroom attendance would be taken for students. And then of course, during the day, as students work on materials, submit materials, and do whatever it is they're doing, teachers can also see whether the kids are doing the work. So one of the things I think this has done is this has allowed us to count, take account of who is actively working, not even who's actively working, but just take an attendance count. And then the work is something different. So for us, the office is responsible for the kids checking, well, the kids are responsible for checking in.
Right.
The office is responsible for counting those kids. The work that is getting completed is the responsibility of the teachers. And then as the work is completed, yay. As the work is not completed, teachers are asked to contact families either via phone, email, or whatever. And then if there's if that doesn't change, if the workload is still minimal, that gets referred to us, and then we contact the family after the teachers have contacted them and say, what can we do to help you? What can we do to support you? What do you need? And so forth. I talked with Stephanie today. One of the key things I think that we needed to do is to create a survey, not more so, again, along the lines of what can we do to help support you? What can we do to help your child work on materials? What can we do to help you support your child? And so we're going to be sending out a survey this week. Thank you, Jesse, for allowing us to steal your survey and adapt it for the middle school. We'll be sending that out to both staff, to both students and parents, to kind of create some data as far as how this is working and how this isn't working at this point in time. I don't know. I mean, I talked with Stephanie about this today. I said, what do you want me to bring before this group? She said, well, if you have data and information, and I don't really have a lot of that. It's anecdotal. I can tell you that just like the parents, when Stephanie was talking about Edmentum and parents and students learning at home, I think this has been a learning experience for our teachers in our building. Not just our teachers either. Our ed techs are Zooming with kids when they're at home, especially in our ISP intensive support programs. They're Zooming with kids when they're at home, checking in with them, making sure that they're, understanding the work and helping them as they can. But also our teachers are, and this is, like I said last year when we shut down in March, I said, I didn't go to school and learn about remote learning. I didn't go to teacher school and learn about remote learning. I didn't go to administrator school and learn about remote learning. No one else did either. So this is all new territory for us. However, I did learn that one of our teachers did take a remote learning course as part of his undergraduate work. Now, he just finished his undergraduate work. So I'm like, geez, you're a wealth of knowledge. I'm going to make you the head of remote learning. But that's where it's been. So it's been trial and error, I think, for us in September. September and October. Even though we did it's a different learning than we did last spring. Last spring was emergency learning. We weren't counting the assessments. We were just asking people to check in and do the work if they can, and if they can't, we'll try to help you figure it out. This year, it's a little bit, it's a lot more structured, with the expectation that when kids are at home, they're working on material. And it's really an interesting situation, because I talked about this at leadership team today. So one of the questions that came up from one of the grade level teams is, why do kids have to check in by 8 a.m.? Because they may sleep till 10, and they may get up and work from 10 to 3, or they may work from noon to 4. So why, so I think those are the things that we're finding out in this remote learn, this hybrid plan, is that not everybody is going to do a neatly packaged, 7:30
Right.
to 2 learning experience. And that's, I think, that's a difficult thing for us in a school to wrap our heads around, because we'd be like, you're in school from 7:30 to 2, do 7:30 to 2. So I think there's a lot of stuff for us as educators to learn regarding this model. And is it perfect? Like Stephanie said with Edmund, is it perfect? No, it isn't. Does it have issues? Yes, it does. Would we rather have the 370 kids in school every day at Oceanside Middle School? We most certainly would. But I think, well, I don't think, I know that our staff, and they're really bothered by this. They want to do the best by their kids. I hear it every day, and it is very stressful for our teachers, I think, because they want the very best for the kids that they work with. That's the bottom line. And they want to do the best that they can for the kids that they work with. And so this is a particular challenge for them to do this and to do it well. But like I said, they're contacting kids, they're trying to work with kids at home. It's challenging. This is a challenging time. I talked with our social worker today, and I can't even, I was talking to him about the struggles that some of our teachers, some of our parents, and some of our kids are facing. He said, it's a pandemic year. This is not normal. This is not what we signed up for. And that's the special challenge, I think, that's in front of all of us, how to do it well, and how to support the kids and families that we have. So the majority of our people are using Google Classroom. They also are Zooming. We have a schedule in place that, so we don't end up having people Zooming, like, a student who has phys ed and science. Those Zoom sessions are not at the same time, so as to allow the student to only have to make one choice in what they're doing. And so, yeah, that's kind of where I'm at.
Wow.
any questions, or have I not detailed this enough for folks, or what can I do to help out your questions?
Oh, I think that the level of frustration must be so high for everyone. Do you think that as it goes further along, Bill, that it's going to get a little bit easier for them? Or do you think it's going to stay highly frustrating?
You know, I think that teachers are a unique creature. They're gonna go through a process. Having been a teacher once, you know, and an administrator now, we're going to complain loudly. We're going to look at solutions. We're going to apply those solutions, and if they work, great. If they don't, we'll try something else. I think the bottom line is we don't give up. So that's so to answer your question, is it going to get easier? I don't know. I think it's going to continue to be a challenge as long as we're in this pandemic.
I have a question.
The result of our teachers is any less because of it.
I have a question, Bill. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yes.
After the board approved the changes to the calendar and converted those early release days into full day professional development days, do you have some sense from your staff if that was appreciated or welcome, or I mean, what are you hearing back?
Today, what I heard is, and what I've heard since the calendar was approved last Thursday, is that people are grateful. They're grateful, even though they're saying, you know, we're taking a half day and making it the whole day. We're working with kids less. They understand the fact that that gives them a whole bunch of time to refine their skills and employ those strategies. So I'm not hearing one teacher say that's really a stupid idea. What I'm hearing is people saying, thank you. Now we have some time to really do some planning and we can move forward. So that's what I'm hearing.
That's good to hear. I almost guarantee you that if any of them did think it was a stupid idea, that we'd hear about it. So that's good.
Oh yeah, I would hear about it. I think it's needed, you know, and part, you know, for me, I've really had to step back because I'd love nothing more to have a teachers meeting or something, you know, during the day. And I just need to say, you know what, Bill, you've got to, if they need you, they'll give you a call. They'll ask you to come down the room. You'll be at a team level meeting. If they don't, then leave them alone and let them do the work they're doing. And I check in with team leaders regularly as to how their teams are doing with the, you know, with the planning and everything. So, yeah, yes, grateful.
Great.
So
Thank
as a
you.
follow-up to that, Bill, so I've talked to Jesse a few times about how things are going to the high school, talked to John about this, and last Thursday night, I was very vocal in the fact that I really support what the staff feel is best for them and the students to go to a more structured schedule, Monday, Tuesday for one half, Wednesday for planning and virtual stuff with students, and Thursday, Friday for the other half. And I do think that structure is really important for humans to some extent, to have really important repetitive structure. What I said last Thursday night is like, I just don't know about the middle school. You know, do you think your staff is like, you know what, this is really working. It's working for us and our kids to have it every other day. Or are you hearing it really isn't working? That changing schedule doesn't work for us and our kids. I mean, what are you hearing about your structure?
What I'm hearing, you know, and I'm not gonna try to buffalo you, and I'm not gonna tell you anything, you know. What I am hearing is it's not perfect.
Yeah.
It's not perfect, but I think our teachers and other staff in the building understand that for the safety of our students and our staff, this is the direction that we have to go in at this time. So
okay, to be clear, let's just stipulate to the fact, this isn't good for anybody. We're doing the best we can.
That's right.
No way. So that's my question. Is this the best structure for you and your staff? And then, as you know, for your kids?
Well, you know, I mean, you mentioned the schedule that you just mentioned with the the 2 days. So for us, it's a blue-white. But our blue-white's different than the high school. So every other day we have the blues and then we have the whites. And would we be better served? So what I'm putting together for our yellow, when we're in yellow, is exactly what you spoke of, which is the 2 days blue, 1 day virtual for everyone, 2 days white. That's I'm going to put that before Stephanie and John for them to take a look at. But that's for the yellow. For the green right now, we're in the hybrid schedule. We are talking and beginning to talk about 6th grade, our most vulnerable population in my mind. And then, you know, our what I call our shutdown schedule. I got to think of a better term for it for sure. But our shutdown schedule, if you know, because there's so many acronyms flying around, but our shutdown, there will be a specific schedule. And the unique thing about our shutdown schedule is that teachers get to work with all of their kids in a specific class, blue or white, on a given day. So there's no blue or white day. Our shutdown schedule is just like a normal schedule would be, except they're all at home.
Yeah.
At home.
Yeah. So when I ran into Jesse on the sidewalk of his school because I picked up my daughter and he's like, "Hey, how you doing?" And just ask him how things going. And the word that Jesse used with me was sustainable. You know, just him and his staff wondering, is this really sustainable? That was in September when I talked to him. So to me, that's the sort of part of it because of stress levels. I mean, stress levels are only going to increase as COVID gets to be more scary and we have schools shutting down for a week or two here and there, and we get into winter. So it's all tied together. And what I want to know is what is your best understanding right now, snapshot today, that what we have right now for your schedule, absolutely sustainable. It's the best that we can do right now. Or do you wonder if it's sustainable? Forget the color coding. I get what you're saying about going yellow in the county. So to me, it's like, you know, emotionally, relationally, academically, is it sustainable or do you wonder?
I think that, geez, Lauren, thank you. I'm glad there's no more, there's only us here and there's not like a whole crew of people. To put
You're damn straight. And I always want you, all of you to know, don't tell me what you think I want to hear. I've been around a long time. You know me, who you can trust. Just tell me exactly what you think. And Susie too.
Been around.
Yes, it's important.
No, Lauren, in all seriousness, is it sustainable? Could we do this for the year if we needed to do this with adjustments as we move forward, like I talked about with the 6th grade, the conversations and the reviews? I think the important things here is you need to constantly review what you're doing, review the process, determine whether it's sustainable or whether it works. And if it doesn't, make changes to make it work better. But given our infrastructure at Oceanside Middle School, I can't see 370 kids and over 70 staff in our building every day, all day long with the threat of this pandemic.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, exactly.
I can't.
Yeah.
No,
I've never seen that. Right. I get you on that.
You know, I mean, today the big thing was, you know, what are we going to do about demasking when the weather sets in and it gets cold outside? And, you know, and so one of my team leaders said, tell kids to wear coats and hats, you know, but those are the choices that we have to make because this is a unique year.
Right. I think, yeah, send them outside unless it's just too frigid. They're going to be, you know, too cold in 5 minutes. But if I was them, I'd want to go outside when it's 20 degrees so I can breathe.
Well, get some fresh air.
I want 2 or 3 breaks like that a day or whatever you guys think is right. So bundle them up, bring your clothes.
I just
want to know that we're looking at sustainability as John is and Stephanie is. We just have to keep our minds completely focused and just monitor, see how we're doing, see how staff is doing, how students are doing.
Yeah, I mean, we're entering into a difficult season right now. I was looking on a news site today, you know, about the spike, not the spike, but the potential for a spike in not just COVID, but the flu, cold, and every other November illness that hits everybody. And you know, that's going to be a special challenge for us, and to keep everybody safe is critical. You know, and our kids, the three worst words, no, the three words that our kids will remember from this year at the middle school moving forward is this, because I do recess duty. We have 6 lunches, 6 recesses. I'm outside for all 6, most of the days that I can. Here's the three, you know, here's the words: mask up, line up, 3 feet, 6 feet.
Yeah.
That's gonna be imprinted in kids' minds.
Right.
That's,
right.
I mean, that's what we have to do. And it's challenging because kids want nothing more to do than to hug each other and high five each other, high five teachers. And it's just really been challenging for us to say, we can't do that anymore. We can't do this anymore. This is the new normal.
Yep.
Right.
Thing, you know, it's tough.
Can't ignore.
One quick funny aside. So somebody said they saw a couple kids walking down the street the other day, and they were like, "Hey, Mr. So-and-so, how are you?" And he goes, "I looked at them and I didn't recognize who they were because they weren't wearing masks."
Ah,
Yeah, you know.
It's like, yeah, it's like on the flip side, I figured out a way to go incognito in this community. I go to Hannaford's with a hat, sunglasses, and my mask. No one has a clue.
That's
Nobody
right.
has a clue.
You get no board questions. When
No
you're in
board
the-
questions. So by the way, I need to let you know that I promised my daughter I would leave my office at 4:30 to go pick her up and take her home. So I'm just mindful of my particular time. So I don't know about you guys, but thank you, Bill. That's awesome.
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, that's very informative for us, because I think the board recognizes that this is so stressful for everybody, and people are getting, as they say, COVID tired. And I think that's the thing that we really have to be careful about,
Yeah.
because it wouldn't take much.
No, it wouldn't.
No.
And you know, the I guess the positive that's come out of this is the idea that teachers are allowed to be innovative, and teachers are allowed to present new ideas, and it just small things that teachers are coming up with. Why don't we do this? Why don't we do that? Why don't we do this? You know, it's just, and you know, in this time, I think that creativity is welcomed and encouraged, and teachers are taking that on and, you know, helping each other out. It's kind of a, you know, it's sad to say that this didn't go on before, but it just seems more apparent now, possibly because, you know, we're in what we're in. But I want to give Jesse an opportunity to speak as well. And I know, Lauren, you need to leave at 4:30. So
Thank you.
Right.
more than welcome. Please tell board members, excuse me, email me, call me. We're trying to not have a lot of visitors.
Yeah,
Oh,
right.
yeah.
Not coming over.
More
Yeah.
more than happy to talk to anybody.
You don't want me coming in and saying, "Go Mariners," screaming out the top of my lungs, walking down the hall.
As long as you got a mask on.
Oh, no mask. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Jesse.
Yeah, I mean, I could go on for a long time kind of talking about the process and where we're at and how we're evaluating things. I mean, bottom line, you know, I agree with a lot of what Bill said. We didn't do this because we thought it was going to be easy. We thought that this was the most likely way to deliver our programming and keep everybody safe. And, you know, I think we've met that goal. You know, we've been able to maintain the majority of our programming. We've been able to create an environment where we can have over 500 kids attend school in some way or another and still do so safely. You know, I'm always worried about the sustainability piece, like Lauren brought up. You know, I worry. You know, we see anxiety, and we see folks really struggling with all the unknowns, from the unknowns in the world that we have no control over to the schedule itself. And, you know, we have a 4-day rotation over a 5-day week. So that means every week is uniquely different. And so it's 2 days on, or 2 days in person for students, then 2 days virtual, and then we repeat. We have found some ways to get students here more often, which has been a positive thing. We've been, it's really impossible to bring large pockets of students in more often, but we've been able to take a look at a need on a as needed basis. And we have some students who need some additional supports to be able to come in more often. We have some students who aren't.
I was gonna say, Ella's told me sometimes some of her friends have forgotten they're supposed to go to school that day. They're just playing fast. They didn't go.
Yeah, and we've had some show up and be like, oh, and we've had to be like, no, today's your home day, and they're like, and sometimes we can provide just a space for them to work here because they've already made the effort to get here. But it is, there is a lack of consistency within the schedule, which I worry about. I worry that sometimes that we are sacrificing the quantity of time that we're spending with students with the quality, and finding a way to balance that and provide teachers with the time to be able to still provide high quality instruction and not settle. So we're always having conversations with that. One thing Bill mentioned that, I talk about a lot is there's so many different moving pieces to this, and so many things are brand new. Nothing is a final product yet. We're constantly taking different pieces off the shelf. We're taking a look at it. We're talking about it. We're looking at it from different angles, looking at different perspectives. I talk to Stephanie and John multiple times a week about things going on. There's quick email, or sometimes several quick emails, asking questions, just trying to figure it all out and asking questions and seeing, what is the best way to do this for the long term? Because hopefully we don't have to go full remote. Hopefully we can maintain this, because this is better than full remote. We still have opportunities to build those relationships and have face-to-face, which definitely helps with that virtual piece. It makes a difference if you're going to see your teacher in a couple of days, whether or not you're going to log on and do that work, versus you don't know when the next time you're going to have to be face-to-face with your teacher. But we're constantly taking a look at things and trying to improve and do better. We're constantly getting feedback from families. We just did a survey that we're going through some results right now to take a look at, to see how folks are feeling. And just like with anything else, it's across the board how folks are feeling about what's going on. It's none of this is easy. Having teachers teach simultaneously in 2 modes is not easy. Trying to keep track of it all is not easy. This is definitely a challenge right now. And it's hard not to compare it to what we've done in the past, but we have to keep remembering that there is no comparison to this right now. This is a unique time, and we just have to continue to try to support each other and do the best we can.
Jesse, I have a question regarding a couple of things, and I've heard this before about kids being confused about what day they're supposed to go to school, and I've had parents contact me about what day kids are supposed to be in school and everything else. What would the percentage be, do you think, of kids that have a smartphone at your school? How many kids have cell phones?
Probably 85-90% would be a low estimate, working at any given time.
And how many of those parents do you think have cell phones?
Oh yeah, no, and most of them do. And we put the calendar out all the time.
I know. So, and I'm not trying to be wise or sarcastic when I say this, but I mean, I'm 60 years old. I'm a digital immigrant, as they say, and I have tons of meetings at various hours that change all the time, and I put them in my phone. And you know what? Never miss them, because my phone goes ding, John, you get a meeting in 30 minutes.
Yeah.
So I guess my question is, what if you're confused, or if you're a parent that can't figure this out? I think to me, it's like, are you actually trying? Because if you calendar or the schedule in a phone, you're going to have it. So I guess it just never ceases to amaze me that, I have parents contacting me on Facebook at 10 o'clock at night, wanting to know what the next day's schedule is. And it's on the same page that they just messaged me through. So it really blows my mind that they can't figure it out.
Yeah, and what we've learned through this is, something that is probably not a huge surprise, is the engagement that we see sometimes from families and understanding what the basic structure of the high school is, just between an alternating blue and white schedule and some things like that. We see that a lot of the students are maybe left to their own devices quite a bit to figure out and manage their own schedules. Because even the things that haven't changed with the schedules seem to be a point of confusion sometimes.
Let me just jump in and say, I've said it before, there's a reason that we as people don't change our weekends. We don't rotate our weekends. Everything is the same every single week because we need a certain amount of structure to sort of be on course and set our days and our weeks and our months. We just do. And I think that's one of the fundamentals. And I know I've told you, John, from the beginning, as a particular parent in the way I do life, I didn't like this schedule going into it, but that's just me, one out of hundreds of parents, for the school. But I absolutely was fine with it because you guys figured it out and thought that's the best way to go. But now that, I'm concerned about stress levels for staff and students, it's a different feeling for me. So I still trust you guys to figure out what's the best way to go, and I'll go along with 100%. But just as we discuss it here, it's, as you well know, it's heavily on my mind, especially as I know stress levels are growing in the population and it will grow until we get a vaccine. And then it's really going to be different, a lot of much better feeling going on. But for the next few months, it's just on my mind.
I think that's a very good point, Lauren. And I think, I do think, and I agree with you, John, the students and the parents should take a little responsibility of setting up their calendars. And I mean, John's only 60, I'm 78. So I'm a troglodyte with all of this, but I still make it work. So I think.
I was going to say, as a parent, I don't keep track of this. I depend on my daughter to keep track of it. And
Right.
she does, so I just know as a parent, I'm not watching that. Nope. I got too many things going on. And I trust her to take care of that.
So I mean, a day schedule on a phone calendar is like one button. I type in school and hit one button and it says all day. So if I have school these 2 days, it wouldn't take me 5 minutes to go in and put a schedule in my phone first, whether I have school or no school. So I got to think that these kids could do it without any problem at all. I don't think it's a technical problem.
No, I think what
For
you
them.
just said in that sentence, these kids should do it. And that's the thing, is they are still children. And some are like better capable of doing that than others. It just varies in any population. They are still children. So
I think the home piece in itself is challenging. I don't think switching the schedule is really going to solve the problem. I think it's, I think it's easy to think that it would, but I think the stress that teachers is feeling is much more precisely what Bill said. And that's that, we feel like we're inadequate because it's really hard to teach the students in person while you're worrying about the kids that are at home. I think that's the larger stress for teachers. They're feeling like this is a challenge because it is. There's no great answers to it right now. There's tons of variables. And I think both Bill and Jesse touched on some of those variables. Students' home lives are not the same. And trying to problem solve around that, it almost raises more problems than what we're able to solve. I know that in some of the groups, as we're talking about, what might a full remote schedule look like? What might a hybrid schedule look like? It's not the schedule. It's, well, what about the students that are going to be going to a daycare and might not have access to the Zoom meetings? What about the kids that don't have somebody at home to wake them up in the morning? What about, it's all of these other things that make it nearly impossible to make students' home lives equitable, because they're not. And that's the challenge. That's the stress on families, and that's the stress on teachers. And we will continue to do our best to address those things the best that we can. But we, as an educational institution, don't have all of the answers to that. I think that's where a lot of the stress is coming from. And I don't think there's really much that will make that go away.
You know, I agree with you completely. It's absolutely true. Yet, if we can make any tweaks to what we do that does reduce stress all around, then we should look at that. And that's all I'm saying about the
Oh,
stress.
absolutely. And I think if we have to go to a yellow hybrid schedule, that would be our goal of having consistency across the entire district. Because I
Yeah.
think that's another stress on families. We have a lot of families that have students they've got one in K-5 and one in middle school and one in high school. I know we've got people in this very building that have kids in multiple schools, and
Yeah.
that's a challenge to work with multiple schedules.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I want to thank you all. If anyone has any other further comments, I'll be happy to adjourn the meeting.
One question is for Bruce. Did you order your iPhone 12 yet?
You fun guy, you.
I just throw it in there, man. I just thought I'd throw it in.
I did not.
You did not.
Did you order your Surface Duo yet?
What is that? Is that some
That's
like?
the Microsoft phone that folds.
Oh, okay.
It's a dual screen.
All right.
That's
Okay.
what everybody needs.
We need more screens.
Yes, we do. Thank you all very
Thank you for
much.
spending your afternoons with us.
Hey,
Appreciate it.
It was neat. And Stephanie, I loved hearing the steam pipes. Wasn't that?
Oh yeah, right. Love the steam
I
pipes.
felt like I was at home.
Yeah, it's even better on
I had to
Zoom.
mute myself. It kept taking over the.
It was so funny. I thought, wow, who's banging? And then all of a sudden I remembered. Our next meeting is November 16th. Thank you very much, Principal Barkey and Principal Gifford, for your insight. It's very important. And please, if there's anything you want us to know or anything you want to tell the whole board, please do. And we
10-4.
thank you. Thank you
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
for
you.
everything.
See ya.
Thank you guys.
Bye. Take care.